ago, in a house near a big forest, there lived a little boy named Hansel and a little girl named Gretel. They lived with their father, who was a woodcutter, and with their stepmother, who worried all the time. They were very poor, and often they didn't have enough to eat. Hansel and Gretel didn't worry. They were happy to be together and with their father. But their father worried. After they had all gone to bed one night, he said to his wife, "We have no more money to buy any more food. What are we going to do?" "I'll tell you what we are going to do," said his wife. "We are going to take Hansel and Gretel out into the woods and leave them there." The children were still awake. They heard her dreadful words. They heard their father say, "We cannot leave our children in the woods. The wild animals might eat them. Better that they be eaten than you and I should starve to death," answered his wife. Gretel was so frightened she started to cry, but Hansel said, "Hush, I have a plan." And he tiptoed to the door of the house and went out into the night. By the light of the moon, he collected some white stones and put them in his pocket. "Now," he told Gretel when he came back to his bed, "we have nothing to worry about, so go to sleep." The next morning, their stepmother came into their room. "Get up, you lazy oafs. It's time you went to work in the forest." She gave Gretel one piece of bread. "You will have to divide it between you and Hansel," she said. "It's all we have." They all left the house to walk along the path through the forest. Hansel walked behind the other three. As he walked, he dropped the white pebbles he had put in his pocket the night before. As he looked back, he could see the pebbles on the path. When they all came to the middle of the forest, the father built a big fire. "Lie down and rest," his wife said to Hansel and Gretel, "while we work." And she walked away. The father went with her. He looked back sadly at the children he loved. The children went to sleep. They didn't wake up until it was very dark in the forest. Gretel was afraid. But Hansel said, "See the pebbles I dropped on the path? They shine like bright pennies in the moonlight. They will lead us home." And sure enough, Hansel and Gretel followed the pebbles, and they led the children straight back to their little house. When the stepmother opened the door, she was amazed to see them, and disappointed. Their father was so happy to see them that he hugged them and hugged them and hugged them. But that very night, the children heard the mother say, "We cannot keep the children. There will be no food left for us. We must leave them in the forest." And again, Gretel was frightened and started to cry. And again, Hansel comforted her and told her, "I will go out and get more pebbles." But this time, he found the door was locked. The next morning, when the mother gave them a piece of bread to share, Hansel put it in his pocket. And as the family walked into the forest, he dropped crumbs of the bread behind him on the path. The father built a fire. "Rest while we work," his wife said to the children. And she and the father left them alone in the forest. Gretel was afraid, but Hansel said, "In the morning we will follow the path of the crumbs I dropped, and they will lead us home." And they went to sleep in the hollow of a big tree. But when they woke up in the morning, there were no crumbs on the path to lead them back home. The birds had found them and carried them all away. Poor Hansel and Gretel. Hansel took Gretel's hand and said, "Be brave. Somehow we will find a way out of the forest." They walked and they walked and they walked, until suddenly in front of them, a beautiful little house appeared. Its roof was made of cookies, and its walls were made of candy wafers. Hansel and Gretel broke off pieces of the wall and started to eat them. They had filled their mouths with luscious bits of candy when they heard a voice cackle, "Aye, aye, my little ones. Are you so hungry? Eat then, eat." They looked up to see a bent old lady with a long nose and a longer chin. She led them into her house and said, "Sit down, little ones. I will bring you more good things to eat. After you have eaten all you want, I have soft white beds for you to sleep in. I'm a nice old lady who likes little children." You have probably guessed already she was not a nice old lady. She was a witch, and she ate little children for breakfast and dinner. She locked Hansel in a cage to fatten him up. She commanded Gretel to help her cook the food for Hansel to make him round and juicy. She gave Hansel a whole chicken to eat each day. After a few days, she told Hansel, "Give me your finger. Let me see how fat you've gotten." But Hansel knew that witches can't see well, so he gave her a chicken bone to feel instead. "He's not fat enough," said the witch to herself, and gave Hansel another whole chicken to eat. After a week, the witch said, "Fatter or thinner, I'll have Hansel for dinner." And she told Gretel, "Put your head inside the oven to see if it's hot enough." But Gretel said, "You had better put your head inside the oven, for I wouldn't know how hot it's supposed to be." "Foolish girl," grumbled the witch as she stuck her head in the oven. They were the last words she ever said. For Gretel picked up a big stick and pushed the witch all the way into the oven. Then she slammed the door. Gretel ran to let Hansel out of his cage. On the way out, by the light of the lantern, what do you think they found? A fortune in jewels. They discovered boxes and trunks and barrels of precious jewels, crowns and necklaces and bracelets of diamonds and rubies and emeralds. Hansel filled his pockets with all the jewels they would hold. Gretel filled her apron with all that it would hold, and they started to run through the forest. They came to a bright blue lake. "I think our house is on the other side of this lake," said Hansel. "But how can we get across it?" A friendly swan came gliding up to them. "I will be your boat," she offered. After she had carried them across the lake, they saw the path that led to their house. And there they were, home again. They rushed through the door to find their father alone. The stepmother had left. "Father," they cried, "look at the jewels we have brought you. You will be a rich man." Their father hugged them and he said, "I am a rich man now to have my dear children back home."